don't get carsick or anything, do you?
Capcom has been pushing out remake after remake in recent years of their well-renowned Resident Evil games. Admittedly, I haven't played too many of these games, but the fourth game has always been recommended to me and extremely well regarded amongst the gaming community, which pushed me to try the original GameCube version back in the day. Needless to say, I absolutely loved it. Being a fan of many horror movies, I always appreciated how well these games immersed you in their worlds with their creepy settings, engaging storylines, and nail-biting gameplay. Resident Evil 4 always demonstrated these values best, at least amongst the games I've played in the series. The creepy village setting in rural Spain always gave me chills with how there are all these infected villagers just out tending to farms and living their everyday lives infected with the Plaga parasites. The US president's daughter has gone missing, and Leon Kennedy, the police officer you play as from Resident Evil 2, returns to take on the case. You arrive at a remote location in the middle of nowhere where you have intel on where she may be. Your fellow officer goes missing shortly after leaving the car, and you go off after him only to find his bloodied badge on the ground in a nearby home, and an infected native appears that you swiftly have to take out. Upstairs we find a map of the nearby area with a picture of Ashley, confirming our intel. We now have an objective in mind, to get to the nearby lake in search of Ashley. Leon escapes the house just in time and next travels to the infamous village section of the game, and this is when I first started noticing some of the little differences between this game and the original. First and foremost, you can now move Leon while aiming. This may seem like an obvious inclusion to any third-person shooter, but Resident Evil games are always known for their more tank-like controls where you can only do really one thing at a time, moving, aiming, or shooting. So giving the player more freedom this time around with movement feels like a welcome addition in 2023, even if it's still very slight while aiming. I remember there being these vipers in some of the boxes of the nearby buildings, so I made sure to ready my knife, which is when I noticed your knife now has a durability gauge. This feels like a smart inclusion, as naturally the AI of the enemies have gotten much better at this point in game development, and adding an extra layer of something to keep track of in your arsenal feels like a nice fit to add to the challenge of it all. Even though the original Resident Evil 4 still holds up today with its remasters on modern consoles, everything just feels like it's got a new fresh coat of paint this time around, leaving me with a more overall satisfying experience. Join me as we discuss how this fantastic remake doesn't by any means replace the original source material, but offers a fresh take on the same story and mechanics of the beloved classic in 2023 to deliver the ultimate way to experience Resident Evil 4. As you approach the village, you discover one of your escort officers being burned alive at the stake in the middle of the village. This is by far the most iconic area of the game for me. There is a big challenge at hand of protecting yourself from the villagers, as killing your first one quickly alerts all the others, as you frantically maneuver around enemies and into buildings. I quickly remembered just how scarce ammo can be in these games, and needed to be more smart with my shots. All of the best aspects of combat from the original game return here, such as you being able to mash out of being grabbed or strangled, or stab them with your knife to shake enemies off of you quicker. You can shoot enemies' legs to have them stumble over, leaving an opening for you to kick them over, which can take out multiple enemies at once, and ultimately is a good move if you want to conserve your ammo as much as possible. Shoot, kick, finish with your knife. You lock yourself into this house as this maniac villager with a chainsaw tries to break in. Upstairs, we find our first unlockable weapon, the W870 shotgun. Right as things get really bad, the church bell starts ringing, which immediately calls all the villagers to blindly head inside. Leon is able to move past the village and towards the large windmill near the lake. We soon after meet Luis, a former officer who is also looking into this infected cult, which is called Los Illuminados. Both Luis and Leon are captured by Torres Mendez, the village chief. Mendez knocks out Leon and injects him with the Plaga parasite, and he pretty much immediately starts having these weird dreams where he can see Lord Sadler, the leader of the cult who can command all of the infected people with Plaga. Luis escapes after mentioning to Leon that Ashley is being moved to the old church. You further explore the area as you find the familiar shopkeeper and can start buying some of the other weapons like the TMP and the bolt thrower. You approach the lake and encounter the first real boss against the giant lake monster. You stab it with harpoons that can attach to your boat and drag it around. You just barely make it out alive as you defeat the beast and pass out in your boat. You eventually wake up and search for the key to the church. You discover just how Plaga parasites completely consume its host, bursting out of the head of one of the nearby villagers and flailing its knife-like tentacles around. Enemies with parasites like these need to almost be defeated twice. First, just to reveal the parasite, and then another time actually defeating the parasite itself. You break into Mendez's manor and find the key. Mendez shows up and almost strangles Leon to death as he's saved by Ada Wong. Ada is also researching the Plaga parasites and helps you at some of the most crucial moments later in the story. You also find a white wolf trapped outside this bear trap outside the manor. Freeing him just feels right, especially because doing this triggers him to help you later on in the story. Leon finds Ashley in the nearby church and they both start seeing visions of Sadler commanding his army to capture us, meaning Ashley is infected too, in case there were any doubts. Sadler plans on having Ashley return home to infect the president himself, beginning Sadler's plan for world domination. You next fend off against a giant, and this is another truly epic boss fight, as this is where the wolf comes in to help Leon by attacking him, giving you a major opening in the battle. I really love how similar these areas of the game feel, while being pretty different in their layouts of the original. There's this old house where you meet up with Luis to defend the place from tons of Illuminados, boarding up windows and knocking down ladders. There's an old barn on fire where you fight the village chief. And who could forget the iconic castle, where you utilize these cannons to open up pathways and must fight a truly terrifying blind zombie with claws on his hands in the cellar of the castle. You and Ashley must work together, lifting her up to access certain areas and have her turn cranks or activate levers as you protect her from a distance.
Okay, get back here.
This is where you're introduced to Lord Salazar, one of Sadler's main henchmen that's got a big redesign this time around. He always looks so creepy in the original, resembling more of a young child, but instead looks more like an old woman in my opinion in the remake. You unfortunately get separated from Ashley, as an enemy traps you and you must go find her again. I'm overall a pretty big fan of this area, but I'm not crazy about the Salazar change, and furthermore, I'm not a big fan of his boss fight this time around, which felt overly difficult with how he could just kill you instantly in one hit, and you must remember to destroy these goop piles as he constantly spews them out, or you'll be stunned for a while and lose a ton of health if you run into them. Your inventory was its own challenge in the original game, requiring you to rearrange your items and weapons to make everything fit in your attaché case. You can upgrade the space in your case at the merchant, and the remake has this really neat way of auto-sorting all your stuff to make it all fit instantly. This is a nice feature that streamlines the process this time around, and is ultimately a good option when you want to just quickly make everything fit so you can carry on playing the game. Obviously, this was an important part of the original game, making you really think about which items you need to carry and prioritize certain ones over others to make it all work. You can combine your herbs here to create more effective HP restoration. You can craft more ammo and attach things like scopes to your weapons. You can of course still do all of this in the remake, but I will admit, I got really used to the auto-sort feature this time around, and I pretty much always used it because of just how quick and simple it is, letting you spend more time in the action if that's your thing. I appreciated the required aspect of rearranging things in your inventory in the original, but since it's not required here, I'd rather not bother. Other classic Resident Evil tropes also return, such as pulling levers to unlock doors, upgrading a keycard to access certain areas, and of course plenty of secrets and unlockables to be found around every corner. There are blue medallions hidden all over the game, allowing for some cool bonus content to be accessed by destroying enough of them. I really like this minecart section, where you and Luis must lean correctly around corners to avoid falling out and shoot Illuminados in other minecarts nearby. Luis plays a major part in the story, as he is the whole reason you and Ashley are even able to survive the infection, telling you that there's a cure out there that can kill off the parasites without any harm to your bodies. You eventually go after Ashley, who is taken to this nearby remote island research facility. You travel there by boat, and this is where the game is truly at its toughest. There are these weird experimental creatures that are large and very flabby. They are infected with multiple parasites and require a heat sensor scope on your gun to see where the parasites are. You discover Krauser, your old commanding officer, is working with Los Illuminados as he has gone completely mad with power at this point. You and Krauser face off in an epic fight, requiring quick knife play to see success. This battle is so epic and intense as he reveals his infected knife-like arm, requiring everything at your disposal to take him out and just barely make it out alive. You find Ashley and are able to cure her just in time before the infection completely consumes her. Leon passes out just before the procedure completes, and Ashley awakes and returns the favor by curing you as well. You have one final task at hand, and that is of course defeating Lord Sadler once and for all, putting an end to all this madness. This is a pretty tough fight, requiring precise aiming, as you must take out all these glowing eyeballs on Sadler's infected parasitical form. Ada Wong shows up again right at the end to help you land the final blow, dropping off a rocket launcher you can use to destroy Sadler at his core. Sadler is finally defeated, and Leon and Ashley quickly flee the island as it is now set to self-destruct. You make it out just in the nick of time and escape on a jet ski. I love how satisfying this ending is, making all of your efforts feel truly rewarding, as you and Ashley finally have a moment of calm, knowing you put an end to all this and can finally relax for the first time in the entire game. As stated, the original Resident Evil 4 already delivered all of this wonderfully back in 2005 on the GameCube and on other consoles, but I think what truly makes this remake so impactful and noteworthy is how the developers stayed true to the emotions, storytelling, and gameplay of the original while making it feel truly fresh and new. The controls are snappy and responsive in the remake, especially with the motion controls I enabled on my DualSense controller on PS5 that allowed for more precise aiming of my weapons. Leon feels less stiff and robotic with his movement this time around, but still captures the nerve-wracking feeling of needing to focus and fire your shots carefully and conservatively. Remaking one of gaming's most notable third-person survival horror games, especially one that was already so well regarded, could be a daunting task due to not wanting to ruin what is already so well established and well received. But I feel Capcom executed this perfectly by staying true to the feeling of the original, while obviously being different and playing more like a modern third-person shooter you'd find in 2023. Resident Evil 4 Remake demonstrates the value of remaking a beloved classic by ironing out all the flaws of the original and offering a more dynamic and visually appealing presentation while staying true to what made the original source material so great. Capcom delivered to fans something that isn't meant to replace the original, but gives it a more streamlined, polished, and refined makeover that can stand side by side with the game that started it all.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification icons so you can stay up to date on all my future videos.